Alright, Rick Waller came back again, and so's Perry, Dalek Alpha, and Mini Matt Smith. I mean, it's Doctor Who time again. And this week it's In the Forest of the Night. Now, I think it's fair to say that last week I wasn't that impressed. So, let's see if this week's any better. The previews look good. Will it live up to that? Let's find out. So, there's a forest in London. Actually, it's all over the world, and it sprang up overnight. The same night Colehill's School Year 8 oddball class sleeps over at the Natural History Museum. Now, one of their numbers wandered off and found the Doctor. After that, we get about half an hour of them meeting up, splitting up, joining back together over and over, and it's done well. I mean, it's like a traditional Who story in that respect, and it is done well. Oh yeah, and there's solar flares going to hit the Earth. But there's nothing the Doctor can do about that. So it doesn't get that much attention. Not when you could be splitting up and coming back together again. Anyway, it turns out solar flares nothing to worry about. That's why the trees have sprung up. They're going to save us all, and tomorrow we'll forget about it, because that's what humans do. Seems a bit of a cop-out. Now, let's see if the characters are actually worth remembering, though. Well, he's still grumpy, especially with kids. But he is softening. And he seems so sad when he has to tell Mo that he can't help her. His explanation scenes are really fun, too. And we get to see his modus operandi. You know, he pretends not to be interested, then thinks of something, and boom! He gets some funny lines too, including a bit of a dig at Les Mis. A lot of my more pretentious friends would really hate him for saying that, but I liked it. Now, if he was given a really great story, he would be such an epic Doctor. I mean, he really is still impressing me every time out, though. So we can't complain, just complaining about what he's being given. I'm sorry, but I still don't like either of them. I mean, Clara, because of her cocky swagger and the fact she sucks up all the screen time, unnecessarily. And Danny, because I think the writers are just trying too hard with him to try and make him a likeable character. If you're trying to be likeable, it really doesn't work. I mean, in this episode, Clara gets to be the teacher, and other than that, and the fact that Danny finds out she's still travelling with the Doctor, she really adds nothing at all to the story. I mean, imagine it without her, and yeah, it all pretty much goes exactly the same. At least with Danny, we learn a few things about him in this one. I mean, stuff like he won't leave the kids behind. Ever. Well, except when one wanders off and he didn't notice. And he brings out the best in them. So we're told. I mean, it mostly seems by him being a smug git he does that, but apparently he's helping the kids. And he wants the wonders that are right in front of him rather than, the big spacey, don't want to learn new things, I want him to see the things in front of me more clear. And that speech he gave about that, it just felt so forced. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like Danny was saying it. It felt like he was reading it, and I don't know if that's direction, acting, or just a bad character. It might be a problem with all three. I'm not even sure on that. Though Sam Anderson always seems a good actor to me. And he's still playing mind games with Clara. With his tell me the truth. No, don't tell me now. Which is especially odd, coming straight after that, big passionate kiss they'd shared on screen 3 seconds beforehand. Seems odd. Hopefully we'll find out more in next week's finale, or the start of the finale next week. She was so important to the story, I thought she deserved a solo spot in this review, a lot more than Danny or Clara did. I mean, from the first scene she's in, she's a much more interesting character than either of them. And she worked so much better with the Doctor. I mean, when the time comes to replace Clara, and, you know, we're only a couple of episodes away from the end of the season, so you never know. It might be a good idea to team him up with someone younger, a bit like this. Maybe not quite this young, but it worked really well. It was a nice dynamic between them. And she asked just the right questions and wandered off with the best of them, frankly. So, yeah, she was pitched at just the right point for Capaldi, I thought. And then, of course, there's the question of her psychic powers. I mean, she could talk to the trees, could sort of see the future a bit. And there's plenty of mystery around her. And her missing sister, who the trees returned. Now, there's a lot we could still look into with her, and there's a lot of stories that still need to be told about her. So I'm actually really looking forward to her coming back. That's another guest character that I'm looking forward to. That's what, 3 episodes and we got 3 characters? That's good going. Especially when one was as young as Maeve. And then there's the other kids. What is it they say about never working with children or animals? And this is Year 8's Gifted and Talented, or alternatively, Troubled class. Okay, the acting ranged from not bad to a bit shoddy. But for kid actors, that's damn good. I mean, Ruby and Bradley stood out as in terms of characters. One was, an unimaginative child who let her imagination run away with her. Interesting. And the other's a bully who was afraid of the dark and allergic to nuts. Not the biggest characters, but yeah, they all did what they had to do, and you can't really say fairer than that. Yeah, I'm alright with them. So, a bit up and down in this review, but then so was the episode. I mean, the first 30 minutes was great. Built up tension, had lots of excitement and some amazing visual effects. But the last quarter of an hour really left everyone sidelined just watching the events unfold. I mean, it was like playing through a video game. You know, getting right to the big boss fight, and then the computer takes over and does the fight for you. Yeah, it might look great, but overall it's just not satisfying. And then there was the plot holes. You know, like the fact that we're in London and we really saw about half a dozen people other than the main characters. Which doesn't ring true, even if London had been taken over by a forest. And then what happens to all the animals? You know, once the trees have disappeared again, like they were doing. You've got a tiger there, who frankly got so little screen time considering how he'd been in the adverts for it. And he's just left to roam? Or do the trees put him back as well? It's 8 to 8.5 for me this week. I mean, the first 2/3 were pushing towards a 9. But there was too many problems and the sidelining of all the heroes. I mean, if the Doctor hadn't been in the story, it would have played out exactly the same. I think it's the definition of thoroughly okay. But next week's the big finale, or the beginning of the big finale, and that looks exciting. So, until then, see you.